Hi everyone, my name is Vess Rusev and you're watching East Auckland Property Show. And I would like to discuss the topic of trusts. It's been a very popular topic lately. So why people decide to put their properties in trusts, and what are the advantages of having your property in a trust?
Good question, and it's a very big question, so we're going to try and keep it a little bit short and snappy for you guys. Okay, so trust, essentially you're asking someone else to hold your property, so you don't own it anymore until a future event occurs. The people who hold the property are called your trustees. Okay.
Yeah.
So trusts, like, we love them in New Zealand. We're a huge fan. Everybody's got them, right? They are particularly good from a legal perspective, still to give some element of creditor protection, okay, because it's quite simple. Because you don't own the property anymore, if someone's chasing you for a debt, you can say, hey, I don't own anything, hey, do your best. And it's quite off-putting for your creditors because you don't own anything. Okay. Can also be quite useful for estate planning and protecting from estate claims. And what I mean by that again is, if you don't own property on your death, there's nothing for your will to deal with, and therefore nothing for anyone to claim against. Okay. So, and it can be a useful mechanism to get around our rules about when beneficiaries have to take under a will, because there's often a discretionary element involved in trust. The other thing about trust, and it's not always a given, but trust can provide some protection against property relationship claims. So that's claims from partners, de facto spouses, civil union partners. There's riders on that, and unfortunately we don't quite have enough time today. So that's kind of very quickly the idea. You don't own your property, so it protects your property from people potentially trying to meddle with your affairs or claim against you. Okay, so certainly we've had a big spike in inquiries about trusts during COVID. I think two reasons for that. A lot of people are maybe concerned about their financial circumstances and protecting themselves from liability and creditors, but also I think COVID really forced us to spend some time with our families, and it forced us then to think about, if we weren't around, and maybe what we would want for our family moving forward if we weren't here anymore. So certainly a big spike, and trust again can be a good vehicle to manage assets long term for a family. Okay, for the fact that you can keep it in this ownership structure, and then allow kids the use of certain things without it going to them absolutely and being exposed to their own problems. Okay.
And how much does it cost to set up a trust, or is it expensive to set up a trust?
Well, this is the thing. So, I mean, I pretty much on a daily basis get people ringing me going, I must have a trust. I've been to a dinner party, I've got to have a trust. I never ever just let them have a trust. It actually has to be the right thing for you to do. So I would always say, hey, come and have a coffee with me. I'm going to explain to you what a trust really does, pros and cons, costs, and then you're going to tell me what's happening in your life, and we'll really work out, is a trust necessary? Is it the right thing for you, or maybe are you doing it for the wrong reasons? Okay. So in terms of cost, you've got to form the trust, you've got to set it up, and very, very roughly speaking, you're probably going to spend around the $2,000 plus GST mark to form the trust and create the documents around it. You then, though, need to put things in the trust. Okay, so that might be your family home, and you usually have a conveyancing fee to actually, because we've got to sell it from you to the trust. So just like a normal sort of conveyancing fee, you'd see that you've got to move these assets over. The pesky thing about trusts, though, they're just like children. You do need to look after them long term. Okay, and I'm really hot on this topic. You've got to actually maintain them moving forward. Don't worry, they are cheaper than children, but do expect to pay at least a few $100s every year to work with a professional, whether it's your accountant or lawyer, to get the documents in place. And there's certain meetings and things that we should be having with you to make sure everything is tidy. Okay, so
it's setup fee, transaction to move the property from you to the, and then annual fees to keep the trust going.
The other thing I would say, guys, is, and the reason I look so perky at the moment is we've had our first change of trust law in the last 60 years. Okay, it's pretty much taken our trust law and flipped it on its head, and it's made some significant changes. We don't have time to go into it today because I could be with you for an hour, but there's some obligations now about disclosing information about your trust that you have to do for your beneficiaries. You've got some obligations to maintain records in terms of also your behaviour as a trustee. So all I can say, guys, is if you already have a trust, okay, because this law comes into force 31 January 2021, so early next year. You've still got a little bit of time, which is wonderful. If you've got an existing trust, please, if you haven't heard from your lawyer already, please go talk to them. You might need to do a little bit of a spring clean of your trust. It will make a big difference to your life in terms of these disclosure obligations. If you're thinking about a trust, it is really important your lawyer explains how the new law works for you, and put some measures in place to make sure that your trust deed is drafted with that law coming into force.
So it's a good time to talk to your lawyer if you don't have a trust, just what's the best thing to go, or if you have one, how the new law will affect you from January next year.
And the other question I think I get all the time, and I really want to share with people, always say to me, how many people come into you and they actually end up really going through with the trust transaction. Okay, so as I mentioned, we always have this first meeting. At the moment, it's more skewed towards people not having trust, to be honest. So it's probably a 60-40 split, in terms of those that come in thinking they really have to have a trust, because we do really finely analyse your background, what you think you're going to be doing, what you want for your family. In a lot of other cases, there's some other ways we can do what you want to do without having to have a trust. So please do talk to your lawyer. Just because your friend's got one or two or three, there might be a lawyer, they're free for us to set up, please be really careful. It's about your own circumstances, and sometimes there's other things we can do with your estate planning. That means we're going to achieve what you want without the hassle, expense and ongoing administration of a trust.
And just last one very quickly. Do you have any idea, out of curiosity, how many properties in New Zealand are in trusts?
Oh, that's a very good question. We've got a lot of trusts. I do know that in New Zealand. It's quite hard to track though, for the fact that on all land titles and also company records, we're not allowed to list trust names because they're unincorporated. And if you can imagine, there's probably a lot of Smith family trusts floating around. So instead of linking the name of the trust, we look at the names of the trustees. But keep in mind, some people, maybe a husband and wife, are trustees of the trust. So you look at it and think it's just mum and dad, but for mum and dad, it's actually in their trust. So I think there could be a bit of a gauge, but until the person actually discloses how the property is owned, best guess. So there you go.
Awesome. Again, thanks, Kristine. Thanks for the time. Guys, if you like the content, please share, like and subscribe, and see you on the next one. Thank you.